It was a night darker than any the empire had known. The grand halls of Topkapi Palace were shrouded in silence, but beneath the quiet surface, whispers of betrayal echoed like thunder. Somewhere in the shadows, daggers gleamed, papers were burned, and loyalties changed hands. The Sultan, Suleiman the Magnificent, the lawgiver, the conqueror, the man worshipped like a demigod, was about to be dethroned. But not by an invading army. Not by foreign enemies. No, the threat came from within. From those closest to him. In the depths of the palace, a plan was unfolding that could have shattered centuries of power. If it had succeeded, history would remember Suleiman not as the greatest Ottoman Sultan, but as a ruler who lost everything in a single night. So what exactly happened that night? Who plotted against the throne? And how did Suleiman survive what could have been his final chapter? Let's go back. It began with a letter. A single piece of parchment, sealed with wax, passed silently from one hand to another. No fanfare, no witnesses, just a servant boy and a message meant to ignite the powder keg already simmering beneath the imperial court. The letter accused Suleiman of a crime unthinkable for an emperor: weakness. That he was no longer fit to rule. That he had become too consumed by his wife, Hurrem Sultan. That the empire, the janissaries, the viziers, all were ready to turn against him. But who wrote it? It wasn't just political enemies in distant lands. The Ottomans had always known how to keep outsiders out. The true enemy this time sat inside the walls of Topkapi, inside Suleiman's own divan. At the center of the brewing storm was Grand Vizier Pargali Ibrahim Pasha. Once a slave, then a soldier, and eventually the most powerful man in the empire after Suleiman himself, Ibrahim had risen to dizzying heights. Their friendship had started in youth. Suleiman once said, "He is my brother in all but blood." But that closeness became dangerous. Some said Ibrahim began to forget he wasn't born royal. He issued commands like a king. He married into the royal family. His palace rivaled that of the Sultan. Even his titles, Saraskar Sultan, blurred the line between servant and sovereign. And people noticed. The janissaries whispered, the court murmured, and Hurrem Sultan, ever watchful, ever strategic, saw it all as a threat. One night, a coded message was intercepted. It hinted at a meeting between Ibrahim and a foreign ambassador. Treason, maybe, or maybe just politics. But in an empire where power meant survival, even a whisper of treason was enough. On a night heavy with Istanbul fog, the palace lights were dimmed earlier than usual. Ibrahim had been invited to dine with the Sultan, a private meal between two old friends. They talked, they drank, they remembered simpler times, and when Ibrahim retired to his chambers, just a few steps away from Suleiman's, he believed the world still belonged to him. He didn't wake up. In the morning, the guards found his lifeless body, strangled in the same palace he thought he ruled. But this isn't just the story of one betrayal. This was only the beginning. That night, Suleiman didn't sleep. He'd killed his closest friend. Maybe his only true friend. But the threats weren't over. The power vacuum left behind pulled in others like a storm. Viziers, spies, and especially the janissaries, the elite soldiers of the empire, smelled blood in the water. The janissaries were unpredictable, loyal when treated well, explosive when ignored, and now, without Ibrahim keeping them in check, many wondered if they'd march against the Sultan. Rumors spread that Prince Mustafa, Suleiman's eldest son, was preparing to return to the capital with an army of his own. Mustafa was beloved by the soldiers, a warrior, a born leader, respected across the empire. But Suleiman had been warned, again by letters, that his son planned to replace him. That his own blood would betray him like Caesar's Brutus. And who delivered this warning? Hurrem Sultan, Mustafa's stepmother. Was she protecting the empire, or simply securing the throne for her own sons? No one knows for sure. But what we do know is that one stormy evening, in a tent set up for diplomacy, Prince Mustafa walked in to meet his father, and walked into a trap. The guards didn't hesitate. They did what they were ordered to do. Another death, another silence. Back in Istanbul, the walls of Topkapi Palace held their breath. The capital was on edge. The janissaries grumbled. The people whispered that the Sultan had lost his mind, his son, his soul. One night, the torches outside the palace were snuffed out earlier than usual. The next morning, scribes reported signs of rebellion. But it didn't come. Suleiman's silence held more power than 1,000 swords. He emerged from the palace, composed, commanding. His voice echoed across the courtyard. Let no one forget, this empire does not kneel to blood. It kneels to justice. Whether it was justice or fear, the murmurs faded. But inside the palace, a new kind of war began, a war fought with silence, with suspicion, with shadows. Suleiman had no more friends left. No trusted vizier, no eldest son, even Harem, once his closest companion, was now a chess piece he couldn't fully trust. Every night, he sat alone with his ink and paper, writing poems not about conquest, but sorrow. He was surrounded by power, but utterly alone. The night he almost lost his throne wasn't marked by explosions or rebellions. It was a slow burn, a game of trust turned into betrayal, a palace that had become a battlefield of whispers. And perhaps that's what makes it the most dangerous night of all. History remembers Suleiman as the Magnificent. But that magnificence came at a cost. The death of his dearest friend, the execution of his own son, and the endless political chess game within the walls of Topkapi Palace nearly shattered the throne beneath him. In the end, he survived not just by the sword, but by mastering the shadows. The night he almost lost his empire didn't break him, but it changed him forever. Because when you sit on the world's most powerful throne, the greatest danger isn't always war. Sometimes, it's the people sitting right beside you.